right, well, let's talk more about all of this now with Mahjoob Zweiri in Doha. He is a professor of contemporary Middle East politics at Qatar University. Good to speak to you again, Mahjoob. Now, we just heard there what's at stake here in Gaza, and there seem to be two main things happening. On the one side, efforts being made on the diplomatic side to try and broker another ceasefire. But on the other, we have Israel continuing to push ahead with these military operations, the latest one around the town of Rafah. What are the prospects for any kind of ceasefire at this point? Because there seems to be a complete disconnect between what's being talked about and what's happening on the ground in Gaza.
Well, good to talk to you, Hazem. Actually, what's happening is, to me, is interlinked. Israeli government trying to have more realities on the ground, so they complicate the day after in Gaza and force the Palestinians and Hamas in particular to accept and basically to impose a solution on Hamas. On the other hand, the pressure on Netanyahu is increasing. Whether there is level of disappointment from Netanyahu's side, especially after the Trump negotiation with Iran. There is also pressure from the Israeli army on him. So they have to show some efforts when it comes to the negotiation. That's what we see happening in Cairo. And basically, they try to create a balance between having the negotiation and at the same time pushing the army to create more what so-called realities on the ground. And I see they use both to achieve the other. Basically, they try to use these military operations to put more pressure on Hamas to accept the Israeli conditions, while they showed the world as well that they are also negotiating and they want to have a ceasefire rather than ending the war, which basically Hamas wants, and that itself is delaying any kind of deal.
Yeah, and what are the prospects for any kind of ceasefire then if Israel is successful in creating these facts on the grounds, as you say? What are the chances that Hamas will even agree to any of this?
I think it's obvious that Hamas has little space to maneuver. Basically, the suffering of the Gazan people is increasing. I think your reports is showing, shocking images of the life of what's happening in Gaza. And I think that pressure Hamas a lot. And I think they have, in some stage, to give some concession to have even a ceasefire 40 or 50 or 60 days to allow more humanitarian aid to get into Gaza. Personally, I think we are going to a deal, maybe in 2 weeks or less, releasing maybe 5 to 10 Israeli or American or double nationalities, with having more around 50 days ceasefire, allowing some humanitarian aid to get into Gaza. I think Netanyahu knows that Trump wants to end the war, and that itself another dimension of pressuring also Netanyahu. So Hamas and Netanyahu, in reality, they are under pressure to end the war. However, Hamas is calling to end the war. Netanyahu is not doing it so far.
Well, let's pick up on that point that you mentioned there about President Trump wanting to end the war, because it's really the United States is the only country that can put any kind of real pressure on Israel. And, the two leaders are very closely aligned. So what are the chances that Trump can use that leverage to force Netanyahu to the negotiating table?
Well, I think, Hazem, we have to consider one major fact. Trump is planning to come to the region to visit Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region, maybe including Turkey. And I think he wants to come to the region with a proposal to continue the Abraham deals. And he knows that, for example, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, they want a two-state solution, and they want to end the war as early as possible. So I think he wants to do something before he comes to the region, and that makes me believe that he will push with Witkoff to have a long ceasefire, so this can help him in his visit to convince the players that he's sincere on ending the war, and that itself could bring some economic investment to the United States. So I think let's see what will happen before Trump coming to the region, and how much pressure he will basically put on Israel, Netanyahu in particular, to push the, I would say, long ceasefire, or actually getting close to end the war.
Good to get your analysis on this, as always, Mahjoob
Thank you,
Zweiri
Hazem.
in Doha. Thanks very much for being with us.